Hi, hello, it's Jerry, your least favorite drag race content creator. We are at the very end of Canada vs. the World Season 2. And as such, today we are going to be talking about if this season was like a regular lip sync for your legacy season and reimagining what things would have looked like. For context, I want to say I love the Golden Beaver formula, and I think it really leads to better television, less hurt feelings in the long run between fans and cast alike. And I think it sort of takes out that awkward "you sent home my favorite" because your favorite gets their fair chance to lip sync for themselves and fight for their own chance to still be there. However, I think it's fun to reimagine these seasons and imagine if they were a little bit different and how maybe they would have gone. We are going to be making some broad brushstrokes here with how things would shake out because I do think there would be a few differences, but I don't think it would be excessive. So stick with me. We'll also be assuming that there will be a bottom 2 instead of a bottom 3. So one queen will inevitably every week end up safe with each of the bottom placements, and I will explain those when we get there. So starting with episode 1, Dragpop, Team Tongue Pop are obviously the clear winners. The top 2, based on judges' critiques, are very likely Cheryl and Lemon. While Kennedy did great, it seemed clear that they were featuring Cheryl just a little bit more in her performance, whereas they really seemed to respond well to Kennedy's runway over Cheryl's. However, thinking about the overall performance, I do believe that Cheryl would get the other top 2 spot. Of Team Bopulence, Alexis is most likely to be safe due to her runway and her performance critiques of being told she was the standout. Therefore, the bottom 2 is La Kahena and Eureka. In this situation, both Lemon and Cheryl would both choose Eureka since it was their 4th time on the franchise and they both know how it feels to go home early and not really have a chance to fight for your own spot, since that opportunity was taken away from both of them in UK vs. the World, so they would give La Kahena just a little bit of grace in this scenario. With Eureka going home, La Kahena gets one more chance to prove herself to the world. Next is episode 2, The Hole. This was a brilliant episode and I loved the improv twist of loosely basing it on a real show. So now let's assume that La Kahena gets the exact same role that Eureka got, which, let's be honest, was a pretty flat and boring role. It wasn't written to be particularly bombastic, and it was only slightly interesting because Eureka knows how to act well and chew up scenery. I think this role was made to disappear, and I think that La Kahena would also disappear in this role. Her Mother Nature look was also really low-key and I do not think would be allowed to fly among the runway strength of this group in this particular episode. Team Tongue Pop are once again the tops, proving that they are indeed those girls. Joining La Kahena in the bottom are LaPhil and Tainomi. I think Fierce's runway would save her this time, and she would be automatically safe, despite not being very strong in the challenge. The top 2 this week are Lemon and Kennedy based on their runway critiques. Even though Cheryl did a knockout performance in the challenge, her runway was a big letdown for the judges. Based on the reaction to LaPhil's concept over execution, he would be safe this week, meaning that Tainomi and La Kahena are up for elimination this week. In this situation, I absolutely see Kennedy wanting to keep Tainomi, since La Kahena was already in the bottom last week, and she didn't bring it this week. I feel like it's possible Lemon would have a similar line of thinking. No matter who wins the lip sync, La Kahena is out second, securing one more week for LaPhil. Next is episode 3, horrendously titled Glamorous Drag Queen Ball Challenge. The tops this week are Alexis, Fierce, and probably LaPhil based on the 2 looks he posted on Instagram that were both mouth droppers. As an editor's note, I think Eureka really should have been top 3 in the original episode, but that's a different story. I think that Lemon would most likely be safe, and the bottoms would be Tainomi, Kennedy, and Cheryl. Based on the critiques, it's kind of hard to say if Cheryl would be safe, but I could see it being her since they responded positively to elements of her runway package, whereas Tainomi's package they hated across the board, and Kennedy had a lot more lows than highs as far as their reception to it. Alexis and LaPhil will both lip sync because the producers would probably try to jan Miss Fiercelicious and not allow her to be in the top after being petulant last week and continuing to be petulant this week and running that joke to the ground. I think this lip sync could be really fun, but Alexis is the very clear winner and saves Kennedy for being more consistent in the top, meaning that Tainomi is out this week. Next up is episode 4, Reading Battles, where Fierce wins the mini challenge still and chooses Lemon to be her partner for the battle. Cheryl would then choose LaPhil, leaving Alexis and Kennedy to battle it out. And I think this would be so much fun to watch because it would be Canada versus Canada, UK versus UK, and America versus America. And look at these colonies fighting each other. Lemon, Cheryl, and Kennedy are the tops once again, proving that Team Tongue Pop is absolutely unstoppable this season. Based on the critiques, I could absolutely see it being Kennedy and Cheryl as the top 2, which would be probably one of the best lip syncs to watch until this point, especially if it's Hush Hush. The bottom 2 would be LaPhil and Fierce, with Alexis being safe based on their response to her jokes, and to be honest, I really don't know which way this is gonna go. I could see Cheryl keeping LaPhil as a UK sister and Kennedy saving Fierce for her growth this week, taking accountability for her bad attitude last week, although I'm not quite sure how that conversation would pan out, since she's not able to reject receiving the beaver this week, but I could still see her taking accountability during Untucked. Cheryl wins the Hush Hush lip sync in a landslide, and I think that means that Miss Fierce Delicious is out this week. Episode 5 is Snatch Game the Rusical, and it's extremely clear from the challenge and the runway that Cheryl and Lemon were the tops this week. Can we also talk about how mind-blowingly incredible Lemon looked in that Judy Garland look? Because I will be thinking about that for the rest of my Drag Race time. Unfortunately, this week, if you're not in the top, you are in the bottom. So Alexis, LaPhil, and Kennedy are all up for elimination. Based on how the episode played out, with Lemon saying she wants to compete with the very best, I see her eliminating LaPhil, whereas I could see Cheryl doing something competitive like eliminating Kennedy, since Kennedy is the biggest threat to them with winning. I wonder who would win in this kind of lip sync, with how far I'll go being a lot more slow tempo than Lemon or Cheryl normally do. Would their high energy performance style allow them to really take hold of this song the same way that Alexis and Fierce were able to in the original episode? Ultimately, no matter how it went, I think this would then come down to a producer call. Despite Canada's Drag Race typically being a lot more fair in its deliberation, I could see them not wanting to eliminate Kennedy and giving the win to Lemon, who would very likely eliminate LaPhil. And with that, we get the exact same top 4 situation happening, with track records minusculely different from the original season. I think it really just goes to show you how strong Lemon, Kennedy, and Cheryl were really doing this season. And Alexis was absolutely keeping up with them, was just not breaking into the top in the same way that they were. The biggest problem with Canada versus the world is that the seasons are extremely short, and it's hard to really get a good momentum going for track records and getting a good amount of points over others in the room. So even though this top 4 is exactly the same and the track record is only a little bit different, it's still really cool to imagine if this was a regular season of A versus the World. In any case, who are you rooting for to win the crown? I'm personally Team Lemon and very Team Alexis. I think they both deserve the crown in different ways, and I can't wait to see what happens. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the flip. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.